Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about Indiana canals.
Now, before you hang up or turn off or tune out, I promise you this is entertaining. We're not just talking about a ditch with some water in it. The whole process of why they even thought about doing this is great. Plus, it's a hometown story, Indiana.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. This is probably the least excited I've been for an episode. Learning about my own state's history and why the canal downtown exists is interesting because I take my son down there all the time for Pokemon hunting. But man, if learning about canals doesn't sound terribly boring.
It sounds awful. It really does. But I promise you, the shenanigans and crap that goes along with it it's well worth it.
All right, let's get into it.
So we gotta put our time machines on and go back a little bit here. We got to go back to the early part of the United States or Indiana existing, so 1800s, and around the early 1830s to late 1820s, the Midwest gets this idea that like we want to become the new hub for the United States. Like we want people to travel out west,
like a trade center.
Indiana being out west, but yeah, travel out west. You know, get roots here, and you're going to do that because we're going to have this nice, big, massive infrastructure improvement.
And I imagine that's going to be based around like the Ohio River and then up to the Mississippi.
Yes, yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, this crazy idea to use tax money to actually improve the state's infrastructure. That's
what it's for.
Weird. Especially in modern context. You mean we those tax dollars go to improving shit?
You mean like the roads with 1,000 potholes and the crumbling bridges and stuff? Those aren't supposed to be that way?
No, they're not. No, they're not. So Indiana gets its foot in the door when they introduced the Mammoth Internal Improvement Act of 1836. So prior to this act being founded, there was this canal that was being dug that was basically to connect the very tip part of the northern part of the state all the way down to Evansville. So this was going to be a massive, massive canal.
I mean, that's a river.
Yeah, it's a river. And the whole point was for ease of transport. And so they'd already started that. It was called the Wabash Erie Canal Project. And it ran from Fort Wayne all the way down to Evansville. So huge, huge amount of territory.
So from Lake Erie or close to.
Yes.
All the way down to the Ohio.
To the Ohio River.
Lakes to rivers. Okay. I mean, that.
Corner to the corner of the state. So basically you're going tippity top northeast down to the very bottom southwest.
That's like the longest path you can take in Indiana too, because of the way it trails off towards the bottom.
Yeah.
It's ambitious.
The idea here was that we have a governor, Noah Noble, who's like this paunch governor who hadn't done a whole lot up to this point.
I mean, he got elected because of his name.
Yeah.
Noble. What better name for a politician to run with?
And he wanted something, he knew he was probably not running for a next term because he'd been trying to get on to, he'd started out the Indiana House of Representatives, and he was trying to get on to Congress, like actual, U.S. Congress, not just Indiana.
Important things.
He didn't want to just be a governor, and he kept getting snubbed. So he got snubbed again, and he was like, all right, this is it. I'm going to be done. But I got to make a last hurrah on my way out. We got to end on a high note, right?
You see, this is why we have to kick politicians out more often, because when they don't have to get reelected, they'll do things.
Right? And he decides, he's a part of the Whig Party, which, if you're wondering at home, what the hell is the Whig Party? I've never heard of that. Well,
I have heard of it, and I'm still wondering, wait, what the hell is that?
There weren't always Republicans and Democrats. In a very short, it's probably an episode on its own, so in very short, essentially the Whig Party came about because a group of people really, really hated Jackson, So apparently people weren't a fan of mass genocide to the Native American people. Apparently they weren't a fan of all the crap that Jackson was doing.
I mean, that seems a little bit wild to me. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so it's crazy to think that the conservatives are like the ones that hate slavery at this time, and like hate genocide. But at this time, the conservatives, and I'm using that in quotes, really don't like Jackson. So there's this anti-Jacksonian movement that's created, which forms the Whig Party.
Now, the Whig Party is an acronym, I'm hoping, or did they
No,
just
that's just
all
a
wear
name.
wigs?
That's
Really?
Whig Party.
It's not an acronym?
I don't think so. Well, it might be. I didn't
Oh
find
my!
anything about it being an acronym.
They just decided to call themselves the Whig Party. All right.
Yeah, well.
All right. Well,
So
each their own.
as a part of the Whig Party, Noah Noble is really on board with this whole improve the state's infrastructure. He really is excited about that Wabash Erie Canal. And he decides that, you know what? One canal is not enough, Johnny. One project is not enough. I'm going to do 8 projects. And I'm going to do them all at the same time at a cost of $10 million, which is $278,603,225 in today's money.
That's hefty.
Which, by the way, is 1/6 of the entire state of Indiana's value.
Like if we were to sell Indiana,
if we were to sell Indiana, this project or these 8 separate projects are going to be 1/6 of the value.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that Indiana is only worth like $1.2 billion?
Well, then.
Oh, okay.
Not
gotcha.
Today. This was.
I was gonna
1/6
say
of Indiana's value then.
If you could buy an entire state for like a couple $1 billion, like I don't see why more people aren't doing that. But okay, all right.
We're getting digressed. Anyways, these projects included the Wabash Erie Canal, like I said, that ran from Fort Wayne to Evansville. There was supposed to be the Central Canal that would run from Indianapolis to Peru and then down to Evansville.
Wait, what?
It would essentially connect into that Wabash Erie Canal.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. It would run across the center of the state and then tie into the Wabash Erie. Almost every one of these projects would connect into each other some way. Because again, the point of it was for ease of commercial transport all across the state.
Right. It's like building a rail system, but with water, basically.
Yes. There were also rail systems, including the M&I Railroad that was supposed to run from Madison to Lafayette. And notice I said Lafayette because that's the actual pronunciation of the city. Lafayette, because it is a French word, not Lafayette. But if you're in Indiana, I'm sorry, it's Lafayette.
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 I mean, spell it. Like, where are we still in England? Like what?
Well, France, Johnny. It's
France.
French.
Are we? We've never.
You want me to spell Lafayette? It's Lafayette. How do you get Lafayette out of that?
Lafayette.
No, there's no. It's not Lafayette.
Tommy, you just got to start talking like this, and then all of a sudden you got Lafayette.
Lafayette.
I mean, we're lucky it's not like New Orleans with New
trying to do it. Anyways, all right. Sidetrack. There was the Shelbyville Railroad that would run from Lawrenceburg to Indianapolis, and the Whitewater Canal that was supposed to run from Lawrenceburg to Peru.
So Lawrenceburg and Madison are all southern cities.
Yes.
Lafayette is on the west side, northwest, and then Peru's kind of north central
east. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're basically connecting the north side of the state to the south side, and in a big X. You got northeast to southwest, northwest to southeast.
So for those of you who don't know, Indianapolis is a planned city, and the downtown is actually set up that way with the big.
At it.
No, it's a big X and then a grid around it. It was designed by the same guy who did Washington D.C. But in any case, so they're basically doing the same thing statewide that they did downtown Indianapolis to make traversing this area easier.
And there were also what were called turnpikes, which are basically dirt roads that were supposed to connect all the state together as well, running from Michigan City all the way down to Madison, Indiana as well, and Lafayette to New Albany. So again, we're crossing with Big X with both canals and the choo-choo trains.
Now, is this where Indiana eventually gets its state moniker or nickname?
Of Indiana? Well, it shouldn't.
The Crossroads of America?
Well, I don't want to jump ahead too much, so.
All right, well, let's skip it. Well, a teaser.
So you might be sitting here thinking at home, well, this sounds great. Infrastructure, right?
I mean, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, that'll improve trade. That'll improve travel. Like, people would want to come here. You could connect what was supposed to be the capital, Madison, to what became the capital, Indianapolis, in a very easy way.
Well, I'm sure at the time they were sick of Indiana being considered part of flyover territory, right?
Yeah, that could be it.
Back in the early 1800s.
First, this act goes into place in 1836. the very next year, we have what's called the Panic of 1837.
Uh-oh.
And as we know, there's no way to predict future panics of economics. They just happen. Like, there's no way to predict it. There's no warning signs of this happening. They just happen.
Yeah, it's just totally random. Yeah.
Totally random, right? Well, the Panic of 1837 actually triggered a major depression that lasted until the mid 1840s. It was, by comparison, worse than our Great Depression in the times of how long it lasted.
So I growing up, and this is probably another episode, but growing up, I was always under the impression that the only bad time economically in the United States was during the Great Depression. And then,
Yeah,
now having lived through 3 of them as a 36-year-old, like, I get that that's not the case, but
recessions, Johnny. We haven't had a depression since we've been
okay,
alive.
fair enough.
Although,
But in any
I don't
case,
know, this current one is probably getting us pretty close to that whole depression state.
it's all semantics at some point.
It really is.
But in any case, so I mean, it seems like it's cyclical, like
Well,
every 20 years or
every
something.
well, and everything's interconnected. When you learn about economics, everything's interconnected. So if the prices
Right.
go up on one thing, they kind of affect everything else around
Yeah.
them. And that's exactly what happened. So at this time in the early 1830s, the United States is prosperous. We are expanding. We are building infrastructure. This infrastructure is assisting in the trade of commerce, right? This is going on across the United States. Indiana's just a little bit late to the game. And in that infrastructure,
Shocker.
shocker, that infrastructure that's being improved is starting to affect the prices of cotton, the prices of
Uh-oh.
land, and the prices of slaves. Uh, Much of this infrastructure was funded on tariffs. The whole, if you have an exported or imported or exported manufactured goods, we're going to tax it. This is a little bit before the whole federal income tax thing was kicking in. The problem is that money wasn't quite enough, so the government did start taking out, a lot of these states started taking out foreign investments, specifically with Europe, with the Bank of London. And I mentioned slaves, and you might be sitting here thinking, oh God, there they go again, talking about damn slaves.
I'm pretty sure that Indiana was a northern state, and so slavery didn't exist here. We only had the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, we only had the Underground
and help
Railroad,
save slaves.
it had nothing to do with slavery here, right? Well, so when that infrastructure increased, the supply of cotton was easier to transport. That supply of cotton, easier to transport, led to lower costs of said cotton. Because if I can ship the cotton from the deep south to the ports to get it out to London quicker, or up to the north quicker, the cost of that individual load of cotton is going to drop.
Yeah, it's supply demand type.
That made the cost of the slaves go up, because now there's more demand for slaves to farm said cotton.
So they got a pay raise.
And now there's and now there's more
I mean, their value went up.
Their value went up.
So they got more, they got compensated. I'll bet they got like a 500% pay raise, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And that also caused the price of land to go up. So now this really spurred on the whole, we want cash crops to be produced in mass because we're making more money off the sale of tobacco or cotton.
Right.
And so land prices went through the roof as farmers started to start buying more land. Slave prices went through the roof as farmers started buying more slaves. Cotton prices, tobacco prices, and all the goods that you're selling to make that profit are plummeting.
Huh. Wonder why they weren't able to pay their slaves.
Right? Do you know why or what London was using as collateral for said farmers?
For the loans that they were taking out?
Yes, for the loans that they were taking out.
I would imagine they're slaves, right?
No,
no.
Well, that would actually be a good. But then again, slavery is illegal in London at this point.
I was going to say, yeah.
They were using.
After
cotton.
I said that, I realized that we were so late to the party as far as making slavery illegal.
yeah. Cotton was the collateral that most of these banks were taking from these southern states and southern farmers for this infrastructure improvement. So when the price of cotton dropped, their collateral dropped, which means their interest rates go up. And now all of a sudden, these states and private farmers can't pay back the loans.
Yeah.
Which caused the Panic of 1837.
Yeah, that'll happen.
There were warning signs to this whole panic coming, because it's not like the prices changed overnight. It's not like everything affected it overnight and it was quick, and you know
Well, right, yeah,
this
this
was
is
a
probably a
gradual thing.
several year long process of.
And so by 1836, Governor Noah Noble is fully aware that that there's probably going to be a little bit of economic turmoil. But
Yeah,
his thought here is, I'm going to make a risk. I'm going to go ahead and take out as much loans as I can
yeah, love a risk taker.
to go ahead and build up this infrastructure as quickly as I can, and just hope, Johnny,
Yeah,
that we'll get it done in time before the banks come a knocking to get their money.
yeah, he's a gambler. I like it.
By the way, he
Well,
leaves
because
office.
the idea is you build it, and then all of a sudden, money is just rolling through your state, and then you can pay it back, right? And
Yeah,
then
that's the idea. Yeah,
that's what he was
because
hoping
the
for.
idea was this infrastructure improvement would increase trade and commerce in Indiana. So
But you got
theoretically,
to
when
get
it's
the
done,
money. You got to get that money up front to pay for all the infrastructure and everything else. And if you start defaulting on one of your loans, you're probably not going to get the other loan because you definitely didn't plan correctly for how much it cost.
by the way, there were other warning signs to maybe not do this canal project, because there was an attempt made in 1819 by the Indiana Canal Company that was supposed to run a canal around the Ohio Falls on the eastern part of our state, and it failed with the Panic of 1819.
Oh God.
So
Like I said, 20
maybe,
years, a 20-year cycle is what it
so
is.
maybe we should have, like, learned from that lesson. But I can't stress this enough. Governor Noah Noble knew he wasn't running for a second term,
I'm sorry, Noah Noble.
so he did not give a shit. So the Panic of 1837, guess when he left office?
1838?
1837. So
Oh,
he
so
didn't give a shit. He was like,
he wasn't even around for any of it.
no. He passed the
Oh,
bill and said, "Deuces, I'm out. Good luck, guys. This is my
attaboy.
legacy. It's your job to uphold my legacy."
I mean,
He's
I
replaced by his lieutenant governor,
Mike Pence.
Mike Pence. Uh, God, damn it, Johnny, you always get me sidetracked. By the time this bill passed in 1836, now that I'm back on my right track here, the state had already borrowed $2 million for the Wabash Erie Canal project.
Okay.
The central part of the state at this time, right before it was passed, was bitching that they were being left out, like, because the Wabash Erie Canal was not going through Indianapolis.
Oh, it was
So they're like,
going
we want,
around them.
yeah, they were. It basically it tracks. I'll put a picture up for the
It's a
YouTubers at home, but
bypass.
it tracks the northern part of the state, and then basically it goes due south.
Oh, so from like Fort Wayne over to like
Yeah,
Gary
so like
type,
Gary-ish area,
whatever,
and
yeah,
then straight down south.
and
Yeah,
then down it. Okay, so it's not a diagonal across.
not
It's
that
just
that
getting you
not that
there. Yeah.
canal, not that canal. No,
Okay.
and there's reasons for that, and we'll get there in a second. Why maybe the canal wasn't just a straight diagonal, but Indianapolis is bitching about, we want a canal through us because we're the capital. Come on, we should be a
Yeah.
part of this whole new fandangled thing.
Give us a canal because we're surrounded by bodies of water.
And Noah Noble sitting in his mansion that's being run by freed slaves from his dad's farm in the South.
Wait, I mean, so they were freed and then went up and then were then compensated like
Yes, they were employed by Noah Noble to build his mansion, and I'm sure he paid them appropriately.
I'm guessing he paid them with room and board.
You might be right, Johnny.
Is what I'm
So
gonna
he's
go ahead
sitting
and
there.
guess.
He's sitting there in his mansion. And he goes, "You know what, Indianapolis, you're right." And so that's when he comes up with the idea to have an additional 7 projects, with a lot of them connecting right into Indianapolis.
Why not?
But immediately upon this bill being passed, there was scrutiny for it because, well, an investigation showed that several of the proposed canals, including that central canal that was supposed to run through Indianapolis, were going through areas that were unsuitable to canals. So in order for a canal to work, the water has to start at a higher elevation than where it's going to wind up.
Yeah.
Water has to flow.
Right.
So if the starting point happens to be at a lower elevation than the end point or the middle point,
Right.
then
You're just left with
It's not
flooding.
really a
Like,
viable means for a canal. And so an investigation was done, and a survey was done by the investigation committee that showed that almost every one of the canals was not suitable to be a canal based on the proposed routes.
yeah. So here's a thing about the topography of Indiana is during the glacial period when everything was kind of, the land was formed and everything. The glaciers kind of stopped to like basically 2/3 of the way down southern Indiana, and so southern Indiana's not mountainous but hilly and lots of valleys and everything else, and basically the top half of Indiana is just zero elevation. It's just flat,
So
and
if you're
so
trying to,
getting that water going up is going to be tricky.
it sure is, Johnny. And by the way, that committee found that, yeah, there was not a single survey that was conducted by the government prior to approving this proposed plan.
Wait, guys, we were supposed to conduct a survey to make sure this was feasible. Like, I drew a picture. What do you want? It's going from here to here. Make it happen.
By the way, prior to approving this whole canal project, like we're all about canals, right? Do you know there's this fancy invention called the choo-choo train that came out in the 1820s?
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's a
believe the
nice little
first,
thing. Helps you
yeah,
go
the
over
first,
land.
yeah, the first train was in the United States in the 1820s. So
Okay,
trains aren't
but
new. We know they exist.
yeah, you're
In
talking about
fact,
this fancy technology and everything. Can it go uphill, Tommy? Can it
uh,
travel up a hill? Because that's impossible.
it's funny because it can, it can,
What?
Johnny. What?
Oh my gosh.
Maybe we should look at the trains. And there
Maybe
was
just
even a
use
couple
that.
of railroads proposed in this project. Like, why wouldn't you just use the railroad? The railroads are cheaper to, it is a lot cheaper to lay a couple of tracks of steel down than it is digging a fucking ditch and filling it with water.
Well, and here's the thing. They're like, oh, well, but we want to get trade up from Lake Erie down to the Wabash and all that. Well, build a train with a bunch of cars that can then load the things off the boat onto the train and then take it down, and then you can put it back on a boat. They
The
didn't want to do that, did
few,
they?
no, they didn't want to do that. The few members of the government that did vote against it, which I believe there were 9, said,
Wait,
why
9 out
aren't
of
we,
how many?
like 20 or 30 or something like
Okay,
that?
not okay.
Uh, or maybe 100. I don't remember how many they had at this point, but not
20 or
very many.
30 or 100. All
It
right.
was very unanimous. It was a very
Okay.
unanimous
So the 9 are in the
vote.
vast minority.
The
Is
nine
the
are
important
the
bit.
9 are the Democrats that said, "Hey, this seems like a waste of money, and maybe we should do a survey for it first to see if it's feasible,
Maybe
and
we should.
maybe we should use trains instead of canals, and maybe we shouldn't do them all at the same time because Indiana is still a relatively new city, and do we even have enough people
All
to
right.
work all these projects at once?"
All right, Tommy.
Spoiler alert, they
I'm
did not.
I'm gonna need the names of all 9 of those people who went against it and try to find their children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren, whatever it is. Whoever, I'm assuming they're also running for office because that's how American politics work, and
Probably.
they need to be voted in because they obviously have good genes that think smartly.
Yeah, they should. I'll track them down, I guess, as best
All
I
right.
can.
Yeah, send it
From
my
the
way, and I'll do what I can for the voting.
And like I said, the whole like, do we even have enough people to work these? Well, from the onset, even though all these projects are pretty much interconnected, at some point they all cross their paths. They all intercompeted with each other because there were not enough people to work every single project
And so,
at the
it,
same time.
and so, is this the project of digging the canals
This
or
is, yeah.
operating?
Well, this is all of the above. This is making the canal. So this we're at the point where we're making the canal. We're not even functioning a canal yet because we got to dig the canal,
Right.
or
Yeah.
make the roads, or make the trains.
Yep.
And there's not enough people to do all 8 projects because these are massive projects. We're talking about hundreds of miles of trench being dug for the Wabash Erie Canal. To
Right.
give a little bit of spoiler alert, the Wabash Erie Canal, if it were to be finished, would have been the longest canal in the United States.
Yeah.
It is a huge undergo.
Well, I mean, consider right now or for the past several years, I don't even know where they're at on it, but they're trying to build a highway from Indianapolis to
I-69,
Evansville,
yes.
and
I-69.
it is taking forever. And that's
Yep.
today with backhoes and with bulldozers and with legit construction equipment. Like, they're not doing it with shovels.
Nope. Oh, Johnny, but why do we have to do all the projects at once? Because Noah Noble had to get this done before they ran out of money.
Right, yeah, because if you don't do them all at once, you don't have the money to pay for any of it.
Not a, not to mention, besides the labor shortage, there's also a material shortage. We don't have enough shovels to go around,
Yeah, so I mean,
or dynamite for blasting, or any of that.
so really, I mean, America from the get-go through at least the Civil War and probably much further beyond has always been plagued with this. We have this idea, we have this thing we want to do. We don't have the raw materials or the manufacturing plants to support this thing we want to do. Like, that's why the South had such a hard time in the Civil War, because they couldn't make enough guns and couldn't do enough things. Like,
Do it anyways. Do you guys yourself a favor. If you want to know about how bad the manufacturing was of the Confederacy, look up a YouTube channel, Forgotten Weapons, and look up all of his Civil War, like, Confederate-made pistols. Like, there are 100 companies trying to make pistols for the South, and, like, they produce, like, 5 throughout the
oh
whole
god,
war, and they're the biggest pieces of shit.
are they are they better or worse than the gun that was issued to, I believe, World War II soldiers that had like paratroopers that had like it shot once, and the idea was you killed somebody and took their
Oh,
weapon?
the Liberator?
Is that what that? Oh,
Yeah, you're talking about the Liberator. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I would take that Liberator over any Confederate-made gun during the Civil War.
So that you could take somebody else's gun.
Because I at least know that
That'll
that's,
work.
like, I know the Liberator. I have a Liberator. It works. It's going to work.
So whose
It's
weapon have you taken with it? I assume you've killed a man and then taken his weapon.
right, yeah. Shh, I'll never tell, John.
Oh shoot, I forgot this is being recorded. All right. Anyway, about the canals.
Anyway, so back to the canals. So it basically became a best man for himself. That Central Canal, the canal that started this whole project, because Indianapolis really wanted their own canal. Right off the bat, they ran out of money after digging like 2 miles worth of canal. Actually, it's 3. They dug 3 miles worth of canal and then went bankrupt and sold the company, or sold that canal to a private company who looked at it and said, we're never going to make any money off of this, and then left it. By the way, Johnny, I already see your hand up. That is the 3-mile
That's
canal
it?
that's still in Indianapolis. That is what was dug. It was supposed to be a viable means of transport. And if you've never been to Indianapolis, and you do go to Indianapolis, look at the canal. This is kind of like a nice little walkway that they've got. It's
Oh,
like
it's
a
great.
touristy attraction. But think about that being used as commercial transport.
Okay,
It is a ditch. It
let
is a
me-
literal tiny ass ditch that's maybe 5 feet deep. I don't think any commercial boat could have ever been on it. I'm pretty sure an Olympian long jumper can jump over the damn canal.
Yeah, no doubt.
There is
So-
no way this thing would be viable for any kind of transportation.
Yeah, so I frequent the canal, and I always thought that it was just put there for decoration, for something nice, and a nice little waterway, water piece, whatever else. But when you started discussing that this was supposed to bring, I would guess you're not going to ship small ships filled with goods all the way from Lake Erie down to Evansville.
You would think
They would want big
steamboats at least.
barges or something.
Yeah.
Anything. Literally the Indianapolis Canal, I think, maxes out about 5 feet. It has slanted edges that kind of make it into a U shape that are like 3 to 4 feet down, and it cannot be, I don't know the dimensions, it can't be more than 20 feet wide.
No.
30 feet tops, but I think probably closer to 20.
I would bet a long jumper would be able to jump over it.
But yeah, it's definitely not something that
it's
when you
barely
see it,
big
you
enough
think
to
can
have.
be.
It's barely big enough to have the paddle boats on it that you can, because you can go down and you can rent paddle boats. And it's barely big enough for that. Like, at best, you might have had a raft like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn kind of raft. Like, at best, you might have had that. But how much could you have actually transported on one of those rafts?
Okay, so The Indianapolis Canal is 60 feet wide and 5 feet deep. What
That's not.
boat are you traveling on with that? That's not a paddle boat or a kayak.
Yeah.
That's going to transport any sort of goods meaningfully.
By the way, and so that was a complete right off the bat. In 1837, they're like, this failed, sell it off. Like 3 miles dug, and they're like, this was dumb.
Yeah. What a waste of time.
By the way, that rail that was supposed to run from Madison to Indy, as we discussed a little bit earlier, Madison is a lot higher elevation than what Indianapolis is.
Yeah.
And there are hills in between the two.
Yep.
And even with the hills, and even with the complications of digging a rail line through the hills,
Right, you blow them up.
cheaper.
They've done that. They went through the Rocky Mountains, for crying out loud.
It was cheaper per mile of rail to build that rail line than it was to build any of the canals.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes. That makes sense.
But by the way, that rail line from Madison to Indy cost what was given $1.3 million of that $10 million budget. It burned through it and was never completed.
How far did they get? Did they get any?
Eventually,
Anywhere
it had
close?
to. I mean, I know there was a rail line that did eventually connect, but it wasn't this project. This project was sold off. I think I know it cut down into Jeffersonville, which was the southern portion. It was supposed to go all the way down to right by Louisville.
Yeah.
I don't know how far north it got. But it ran out of money, and they sold off to a private company who was also not able to finish it because it was just too costly versus the benefit of what you would get. Because unfortunately for Madison, Indiana, even if you go there today, beautiful city. I love the city. I lived there for a little bit.
Yeah.
It is not a booming metropolis or a destination of any kind of commercial hub.
No, and even the closest, what I would consider big-ish city, Scottsburg, is also just a small town, rural America town.
At
like
best,
not a
it would have
city.
been an Indiana hub to Louisville, like at best.
Yep.
And that was supposed to be our state capital.
Madison was?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but who? I mean, for crying out loud.
Which makes sense because it was right on the Ohio River. So, like, had it been the capital, it would have developed and would have been fine. But
yeah, but it doesn't make sense because could you imagine all of these high schools shipping their kids down to the state capital for the state finals and all their athletic competitions
in the very southern east part of the state?
5 friggin' hours from Fort Wayne or whatever.
Oh, at least 5 hours from Fort Wayne, at least. I live over on the west part of the state by Terre Haute, and it takes me 3 hours to get up to like South Bend.
Yeah, well, as far as my knowledge is, Noblesville, Indiana to Hanover is a solid 2 hours exactly on the nose, and then from Noblesville up to Fort Wayne's about 2.5.
Yeah, so
you could get there in about 5 hours.
5 hours, yeah.
4.5, 5 hours.
Indiana, if you're from Europe, is a very long state. We're not very wide. You can get east to west in like 2 hours. We're just a very tall. Yeah, we're a tall state. In any case, it was never finished. By the way, all that money that was that $10 million, it was starting to be funded through loans. And by 1838, only $45,000 was being received from revenue through taxes. So the entire state of Indiana was generating $45,000 in taxes. By 1838, they had accumulated $15 million in loans for this project.
Oh, that's going to end up being a problem, I think.
Well, because by the end of 1838, they were supposed to be paying $193,350 in debt for the loan payments every year.
So there's
a bit of a discrepancy there, isn't there, Johnny?
Is it out of turn to ask why we're not currently owned by France?
London.
Wait, this was London.
London banks, Britain.
I'm all over the place. All right,
you're all over the place.
You mentioned France earlier. You corrected me to
Lafayette.
France. Right. Okay, that's what that was. My retention is spectacular. Okay, so why aren't we again a part of England?
By 1840, the state was bankrupt. For all practical purposes, it was 100% bankrupt. We could no longer afford in our reserves to make the payments for our loans. We were legitimately bankrupt. So what we did is we went to the Bank of London. We went to England. We said, listen, we fucked up.
Gonna be a little late on these payments, guys.
We're gonna sell some things off. So, by the way, the Indiana Canal, I forgot to mention this before. The Indiana Canal, the Central Canal, it was the Indianapolis one, sold for $2,425. That was it. Off of a $1.5 million project, they sold it for $2,000.
How are you that inept that you can't get a better price for that? That's insanity. Like, why not just give it to them? You could probably get more in a tax write-off.
Yeah, in 1841, the state was owing basically $500,000 a year in debt payments, plus their regular spending. So that's
right.
Just the debt payments was $500,000, and then they have the regular spending over it. They were generating by 1841 $72,000 a year. We are way screwed up here. Property taxes were raised 400% to try to help accommodate some of that, which didn't help.
Okay, and then
because how many people that were living in Indiana, especially like if you're in Madison, Indiana, and all of a sudden you're told your property taxes are going to be 4 times what they are now. I'm going to go ahead and go across the river to Kentucky.
Yep. Gonna hop it. So here's the thing, though. If I were to be in that amount of debt and not be able to pay it, they'd start taking my shit. Why didn't England take Indiana?
Well, and so by 1841, the new governor, Samuel Bigger, he was able to get a hold of the Indiana banks to negotiate their debt with the London creditors, and they negotiated down by 50%.
Is the negotiation basically like you're never going to see all of this money, so maybe we'll eventually be able to pay you half?
Yes, well, that, and in exchange for lowering it down to 50%, the London banks took ownership of every single project that was a part of this.
Yeah, okay.
But the joke's on them, Johnny. The joke's on them, because none of the projects were actually ever completed by Indiana. So screw you. And only one of them was actually completed by London, which was the Wabash Erie Canal.
So basically, this is exactly like if I were to default on some type of loan, because they would take
your
all of my stuff,
and then they can't make any money off
but nothing's worth anything, and so there's still just SOL.
Yeah. So this leads us up to the aftermath, Johnny. By the time of the sale of all this property to the London banks, in exchange for lowering half their debt.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's not even like they're selling it and be like, all right, you can have this, and now we were clear. It's just you can have this, so we have no equity, and we still owe you half of
what we currently
and we don't get any of that profit from this thing that you were doing.
Nope, you sure don't. By the time of the sale, the state had made 140 miles of canal, 70 miles of rail. The employees, by the time the bank sold all the property off, were actually being paid in stock options because they ran out of money entirely. So here, keep working for this piece of paper that says you own a share of this thing that's worth nothing. By the way, when it was sold to London, those shares were worth nothing.
Can we start selling shares of Historic Hindsight?
Yeah, I'll sell shares of Historic Hindsight to whoever wants them. We'll $10 a share for you listeners at home. But
just Venmo us.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so how many miles did you say?
They've got 140 miles of canal dug and 70 miles of rail.
All right. So Fort Wayne to Evansville is only 297 miles. So they're almost halfway there.
Except that it wasn't all that Wabash Erie Canal.
Oh, right. There's also all the other ones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They accumulated $15 million in debt, but they did negotiate that down to $9 million. So,
I mean, hats off to them.
In 1845, this is my favorite part. In 1845, the state issued an official apology to the state's creditors and to the federal government, stating, and I quote,
to the creditors and the federal government.
And the federal government.
Dear United States of America.
Dear United States of America, and I quote, we regard the slightest breach of plighted faith, public or private, as evidence of want, that moral principle upon which all obligations depend, that when any state in this union refuses to recognize her great seal as the sufficient evidence of her obligation, she will have forfeit her station in the sisterhood of states and will no longer be worthy of their respect and confidence. Essentially, we fucked up and we are no longer worthy to be a part of you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Please, this is they're going and begging to be kicked out of the house.
I love the old
Like
timey
we,
language too.
I mean, it's also prim, proper, and a little dramatic,
Like,
if
we
I'm honest.
apologize, Daddy. We
Um,
crashed a Mercedes Benz.
yeah, please.
I don't deserve your love anymore, but please love me if you still want to.
Yeah, love me is fine. I'm happy to go ahead and leave the house and be on my own if that's what you deem is necessary. But uh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize. There were actually two projects were completed. The road that from the very tip down to the south, it was completed, as
Great.
well as the Wabash Erie Canal, which was finished in 1848 and was the longest canal in North America.
All right.
But portions of the canal were in higher elevations
Uh-oh.
during the middle section and were too costly to the state, well, not to the state, but to the Bank of London to maintain. And it was shut down in 1870 because, railroads were cheaper. And
I mean, why didn't they just build a bunch of those little elevator things like they did with the Panama Canal?
I mean, I guess it could have. It was just costly. It was too costly to keep
Oh.
it running.
Oh,
Like, that
right,
was a
because they
problem.
were in
'Cause trains were
horrible,
cheaper.
horrible debt and have defaulted on all their loans. And the Bank of London's like, why the fuck would I want to build a canal in Indiana?
Right? Uh, as of today, all that remains, you might be wondering, this canal sounds awesome. Maybe I want to kayak down this canal. Well, you can't.
You got about 3 miles.
When it was shut down, it dried up. There is a small restored 15-mile section of this canal and a few ponds that are a result of the canal.
Runoff.
And then, of
Yeah.
course, there is the 3-mile loop of the canal in Indianapolis, which you can kayak down if you want.
Which also, for your, if anybody happens to play Pokemon Go, fantastic
Great place for
spot
Pokemon, yeah.
to hunt Pokemon.
It is kind of ironic that the project that was the most dismal failure in this, which was that Central Canal or the Indianapolis Canal, is also the one that it's the one that actually still makes money.
The only thing that's now a viable thing. And
As
it's
a
only
tourist-
because it's downtown
tourist trap.
Indianapolis, in the middle of Indianapolis, and it's just this weird little
Well, and
waterway that
it only makes money if you rent the paddle boats. Like,
well,
if you
the
don't rent
paddle
the
boat
boats,
company
it costs
makes
you
it.
nothing.
Yeah, the paddle boat company makes money there. But yeah, you're free to go and walk around and do whatever you want down there. But
It's a nice little walk.
it's a great walking path.
If you
Paddle boats are fun, but yeah, it's literally just like I thought the city of Indianapolis built it as like a park type thing. I thought it was like,
Nope.
hey, we wanted some type of thing for people to do, and so we built this canal.
It was supposed to be a viable way to get from Indianapolis to Evansville.
There's still no viable way to get from Indianapolis to Evansville.
That's what
as the
I-69 is
case may
supposed to be. That's what I-69 is supposed to be.
Eventually they'll finish it, right?
If the concert venues ever do start opening up again, like if you can actually go to concerts again, the Wabash,
Eventually they
the
will.
White River, the White River concert venue, which is right down there by the baseball stadium.
White River State Park.
Yes, they do concerts there. The canal is a great place to walk safely after said concert when you're drunk and you don't want to take an Uber or you can't drive. It is a great place to walk, and you can get to lots of hotels from said pathway on the canal.
Yeah, the canal. It really is a.
I do use it.
If anybody's in Indianapolis or visiting or whatever, it is really a cool place. It's a very pretty walk. It's a very pretty canal. You can feed ducks and stuff. You can try not to get attacked by geese.
They dye it green for St. Patty's Day,
Oh,
and they dye it blue for Colts games.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the blue bit. Yeah.
Yeah, every now and then, if it's a big Colts game, they'll dye it blue. Because I'm sure that's healthy for any wildlife that might live in.
Hey, Tommy, nothing lives in it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Ducks swim on it. That's about it.
On average, land value in Indiana or I should say taxes, rose by 400%. The cost of
I'd
shipping,
be
however,
so pissed.
the cost of shipping, however, believe it or not, was reduced. There were increased profits to be seen with farmers and local businessmen
Were they more than
in the
400%?
areas of these canals actually to get finished. Huh?
Were they
No.
more than
Yeah, probably
400%?
not more. No, probably not more than 400%.
So it doesn't matter if it increased, because if my property taxes increase 400%, my profits increase 50. I don't give
Yeah,
a
it's not
fuck.
great. It is today still marked as the greatest financial debacle in the state's history, probably in the nation's history. I don't think we bankrupt this whole state because of that.
Yeah, that's rough. I
But then
mean,
again, Illinois is bankrupt because of Chicago, so
well,
whatever.
but this country has like a long history of getting just fantastic deals on land. For example, like the Louisiana Purchase, for example.
I wonder how that happened. Or
Um,
when we bought Alaska for like literally 2 cents an
yeah.
acre.
And so like they're pretty good negotiators, I would say. Or just said,
Or
sign
thieves,
this and
whatever.
now it's
Yeah,
ours.
whatever you happen. And you
But
might be wondering at
yeah,
home, this Whig Party, they sound like they might be pretty happening with it. They might be pretty hip with it. Oh yeah, by the way, this is what destroyed the Whig Party,
this
at least in
canal
Indiana.
did.
Yeah, this canal destroyed the Whig Party because of the corruption behind it. Because, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, aside from all the other bullshit, there were political bribes given, which,
Of
yeah,
course.
of
Yeah,
course. There were
naturally.
bribes given out to corporations to fund the shit because that's what happens in government.
Yeah.
So it was the downfall of the Whig Party. The Whig Party got the whole blame for this because it was their pet project.
Yeah.
And after this happened, the Democrats controlled the state pretty much up until the Civil War, when the Republicans came out. Now you know why the canal in Indianapolis exists. It exists so that you can go to Evansville. So the next time you're in Indianapolis, go ahead and get in a kayak and see how far you can
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, it's not far.
It's 3 miles in a loop. By the way, this whole episode came about because I bought this book at Half Price Books that was a concise dictionary of the U.S. And I think it was written in the 40s or the 50s. It's a very old book,
Yeah.
maybe the 60s. And so I was like, I wonder what they say about Indiana. So I flipped to the index to see Indiana, and the only thing
Is
that's
that
about
it?
Indiana is the Indiana fucking canal. This was such a catastrophe that the only thing in a concise dictionary of the U.S. about Indiana is this fucking canal and the fiasco of it.
They couldn't have talked about our rich racing history, the
You know,
Brickyard 400, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
8,500.
Uh,
Nope.
um,
Canals.
uh, all right, that's it for this week's episode of Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about the Irish invading Canada.